Hello and welcome to this World of Tanks map guide. My name is Maxwell and today we're going to be taking a look at the map Arctic region and the routes and tactics you should use as a scout. Now, taking a quick look at a simple map of the Arctic region area, you can see straight away that light tanks have a fairly good run of most of the map, barring the very far right hand side there. As you can see, that is where the heavy tanks and tank destroyers clash, and getting an advanced position on there will serve your team no help whatsoever. So just take a quick look at the map and be aware of the areas where the SPGs will camp. For base number 2, it's just behind the base on the left hand side. For base number 1, it's north and south of the base. And take a quick note of where the tank destroyers most likely camp. For base number 1, it's on the small ridge near the mediums inside the base on the north and the south. For base number 2, it's just outside the base on the right hand side up a small hill and covering the heavy advance routes. So as always, the yellow and blue lines indicate the optimum route you should take as a scout. The dotted lines indicate the route you should take once your spotting has been completed. So without too much delay, let's get into the guide proper. The first route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 1 is going to be along the right hand flank, taking probably the longest route possible to the enemy's base. The bonus of this route, as opposed to the other two we're going to cover, is it's probably the safest out of the three and requires the the least skill to pull off. So what you want to do is just get to this far right hand flank and then crest this little hill here as we come up, and you can either, if you're in a fairly slow scouting tank, then what you want to do is either take a position, keep your position on this hill, so either in these bushes here, or alternatively just around the corner in the bushes just here. Now, having said this, this position is not really very far up the battlefield, so your medium tanks and tank destroyers can usually even reach this position before the enemy comes into sight, so it's not the best place to get to and stay at. If you're feeling a bit more confident and you know your camouflage skills are up to scratch, i.e. you have a camouflage net equipped and maybe the camouflage skill at 100%, then this is the position that you want to take. Remember always to spin the camera around and make sure that your tank is fully silhouetted to indicate that you are stealthed. And then from this position you can see any of the enemy medium tanks and light tanks that come around this corner here. Just be aware that some of the light tanks crest this hill here, so you may have to contend with them. If you're not confident of your camouflage abilities, then what you want to do is just take a position on the left hand side here. So as you come down that little hill there, you want to just get into this clump of trees here and then take up position behind the hill here. Just be aware again that if you don't have sufficient backup, i.e. if you don't have tank destroyers and medium tanks either camping the positions up there or following behind you, then if the enemy makes any kind of concerted push around this corner or any kind of push over that hill, you are in serious trouble, as there isn't really any safe place to fall back to. The only real place you can fall back to is just reverse around this corner here and just try and get out of direct fire. So once the area has been cleared and your medium tanks and tank destroyers have done their job, or possibly even you, and taken out everybody advancing down this way, what you want to do is just push forwards and get to this set of rocks over here. Don't drive down the road. What you want to do is get to the right hand side here, head through these bushes, down this hill and get behind this rock here. And the reason you want to take up this position and pause here is because normally, 9 times out of 10, you will find a heavy tank camped either there or behind that rock somewhere, and every now and then you can get somebody camping behind that rock over there. So just light those up for your artillery to take out, or if you're confident of your tank's ability, then take them out yourself. Once you've dealt with them, or you've decided that you don't need to, then you just want to stay on the right hand side as you advance. And the reason you want to stay on the right hand side when you advance is because of this dip here. So anybody coming along the road and trying to get to you, they'll have a much harder job of trying to get a shot on you if you're down that dip. Now just be aware of the right hand side there, because that is the most likely camping area for the enemy's artillery. So just keep half an eye on that area, because if you are going to get shot, that's where it will come from. Sometimes you may have a tank destroyer camped there, so just be aware of that. And then what you want to do is, once you're in the enemy's base, you want to just get up this hill as quickly as possible. Remember, keep eyes on those rocks there, because sometimes you will find a tank destroyer camping that area. And then normally you'll find the enemy's artillery either in this bush here or these bushes here. And very occasionally you will find them all the way down this side in these bushes, just meaning that you have to take an extra long route to try and get to them. So just take those out and then fall back and try and get a base capture off. The second route we're going to look at is again on this right hand flank, but instead of cresting that little hill there, you want to just come down into this dip here. Now this route is a little bit more difficult than the first one to pull off, and I would recommend it if you are in a faster tank. And what you want to do is just get to this position here. Now this might not feel like a very advanced position, and to be honest it's not, but what you are primarily here for is you want to be spotting that ridge there, and you want to see any tank destroyers or tanks that camp that area there, because that little ridge there with the bushes gives a fantastic overview of the battlefield and your team's advancing positions along there. So if you can spot people getting into position there, then your team is miles ahead and your artillery and bigger guns should be able to take them out. You are also going to be spotting this position here, as I said in the last route, 9 times out of 10 you will get a heavy tank camping in and behind that rock there. So again, if you can spot them getting at the position straight away, as you should do, because you should be able to get into this position very, very quickly, then you should be able to take them out no trouble at all. Now once that ridge up there and behind that rock and any other tanks have been cleared, then you just want to advance down here. And again, keep far to the left, because you want to use the natural dips in the land to your advantage. As you can see, you're almost completely shielded from enemy fire there. Now you can't go on the left hand side of that rock, unfortunately, so you just have to skim around there and then head back to the left hand side. And where you want to be getting to is you can either take a position here if the enemy is advancing along there. Just remember that you are fairly exposed there unless you take up a good stealth position behind this bush. If the enemy's not advancing along that area there, then I would recommend pushing on a little bit further and just getting to these rocks here. And then what you want to do from these rocks here is, again, it offers you good protection. Unless there's a tall tank in that bush there, then you shouldn't be able to get shot from that defensive position. And then what you want to do is you just want to head up a little bit, spot, because normally you'll get some straggling heavy tanks camping behind those rocks over there. Have a look over there, and then pop yourself back. Just be aware that if you get spotted from the position of the enemy's artillery, you will be an easy target, so you want to keep moving in this position. So pop up, have a look, pop back, and then maybe reverse all the way around the rocks and have a quick look at the plane over there, and then just keep advancing. Because if you stay still for too long, you're probably going to be an easy target for the enemy's artillery. Now once the heavy tanks have been cleared out from that area and you're confident that there's no defenders that can get to you, you just want to push on and advance to the enemy's base through this direction. Then what you want to do is, where you think the enemy's going to be, defense is going to be camped, you want to just try and keep these rocks between yourself and them. Sometimes you'll find a tank destroyer there or even there, but if you can get the drop on them when they're there or behind the rocks, you should be able to flank them, circle around the back of them and be able to take them out. So once you're here, it's a case of just getting into these trees here, up the little hill, and hunting for the enemy's artillery and hopefully being able to take those out. The third and final route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 1 is going to be down this left-hand flank. Now, not completely down the left-hand flank, as when I showed you the map I explained why not. You're going to be heading more sort of central left. And what you want to do is just get to this bush here. But I would only recommend stopping at this bush here if you are a slow scouting tank, and that is because your medium tanks, tank destroyers, or even heavy tanks should be able to reach this bush in good time before the enemy gets into any kind of position to have eyes on it. So what you want to do is just advance a little further, and you want to come to this set of bushes here. Now the reason you want to come here is it's a lot more advanced, a lot further forward, and these bushes offer fantastic stealth all the way around. So all the way from the front, all the way around the sides, practically around to the back. So if you have any kind of camouflage skill or the camouflage net, you will be very difficult to spot from here. And the good thing about it from this position is you will see, as you can see there, any of the heavy tanks and tank destroyers that try and advance along that coastal river road there to sort of try and get in on the flank of your base. And you will spot any light tanks who try and advance along this plane here, and you may even be able to spot some defenders depending on what your view range is like. If you have the coated optics or binocular telescope, you may be able to spot some defenders getting into position. Now this is the most difficult route to pull off correctly, and if you're feeling very confident, like, I wouldn't recommend this one if you are new to scouting, but if you're an old hat at scouting and you're very confident of your abilities, or you have lots of backup, like if some medium tanks are advancing down here with you, or other light tanks, or you know for a fact you've got artillery support, then you may want to come and advance to these rocks here. And then what you can do from here is you can just have a pop out, easily spot any base defenders that are camped around there. And you can also, from here, just pop out on this direction, spot anybody going along there, and have a little shot at them. And the good thing is, if you have a good ally camped up there and a couple of advancing medium tanks, or the artillery is defending you, the enemy has to come all the way around those rocks to try and get a shot at you. And what you can do is just sort of keep reversing and hiding yourself so that they have to expose more and more of themselves to your larger guns, and hopefully you should be able to take them out before they even reach you. So this is a good position to get to, although a lot more difficult and a lot more dangerous to pull off. So once you're confident that you've cleared out the enemy from this area, then again you can just advance into the enemy's base, or even if you think there's some straggling defenders over here but you've cleared out these guys, then what you can do is just advance to these rocks here. Now don't be afraid to take up a position behind rocks if there is an enemy on the other side, because 9 times out of 10 you will be faster and more manoeuvrable than they are. So if they say advance around this direction, then you just drive around this way, and vice versa. If they advance around the other way, you can just keep moving around and giving them the run around. And normally on this map you will find that there will be a heavy tank or tank destroyer camped here, so you can give them the run around, maybe pop out, have a shot at them, and pop back before they are able to turn their turret. Just be aware that sometimes you'll find that there'll be other tanks camped behind those rocks there. And that brings us to your advancing route. So once they are taken out, or if there was nobody there to begin with, then you want to advance up to these rocks here. Just remember to use short zigzagging maneuvers here, but the most important thing is speed. So don't zigzag too much and lose too much speed, because you want to reach behind these rocks as quickly as possible. Sometimes you'll find somebody in those bushes or behind these rocks. If there's nobody here, then again just push on to the enemy's base and get to the hill with the trees on and hunt out the enemy's artillery, and hopefully you should be able to take them out. And fingers crossed, that should have led to a victory for your team. The first route we're going to cover when spawning at base number 2 is going to be an almost mirror of the first route from base number 1. So it is going to be the long path around the left hand flank, taking the long route to the enemy's base. And this is the most likely advanced path for the enemy's light and medium tanks, and occasionally you get a heavy or two that likes to advance along this route also. So what you want to do is just take this route here to the left hand flank, and you want to get to these rocks and poke yourself through this gap. Now there's a couple of positions you can take, the easiest of which we're going to cover first is going to be around this rock and take cover behind these bushes. And always just flick your camera around, make sure that you are well stealthed, and then have a look. This position offers you a fantastic view of that ridge there, and you may be able to spot a tank destroyer getting into position. Failing that, you will see enemy medium and light tanks that advance along this direction here. And fingers crossed, if you've got some support, you should be able to make short work of them. Now, if you don't have support, this is definitely the place you want to take cover, because then as the enemy's advancing, you can have a shot at them and then you can fall back behind this rock here. And if the enemy keep on pushing, you can fall back even further to those rocks there, and so on and so forth. So, even if you are taking a more advanced position, which we're going to cover in a second, I would still recommend coming through this gap in the rocks. And the reason for that is, if you get to around about this position and you don't have any support, and you see that there is a better equipped or higher tier light tank or medium tank advancing along here, then you can always just stop here rather than taking the more advanced position that you were going to take. It just makes it a lot safer. And the reason for that is, as you advance to the position further ahead, you'll see you are cutting across quite a lot of open ground, so there's ample opportunity for you to get destroyed. So the position you want to get to, if you're feeling a bit more sure of yourself, is to these bushes here. And as always, have a look, make sure you're stealthed and you have good eyes on the ridge here. And I would recommend taking this position if you have a couple of higher tiered medium tanks that are advancing along with you, or maybe a couple of other light tanks. And then if anybody tries to come down that hill, you can have a shot at them and then just simply fall back and use this hill as cover and continue shooting and falling back until you have dealt with them. Hopefully it shouldn't come to that, and you and the medium tank should be able to take out whoever decides to advance down there. Once that's dealt with, you want to just come to these bushes and make sure that there's nobody lingering on this little flat area here. Now normally you'll find there'll be a tank destroyer camped here, just here, so if you can get the drop on them and squeeze in behind them to make sure they can't turn, you should easily be able to take them out. So once this area is clear and any lingering defenders have been dealt with, you want to just push on down the slope on this side. Now don't head directly in a straight line down there. You want to just come more left and use these natural rocks here as defense from direct fire, and then around those, and then use this little ridge as direct fire cover, because you will find there'll be some defenders camped around these bushes normally. Now once you get into the enemy's base, it's a case of find the artillery, and most likely you'll find them in that bush there or that bush there. But unlike base number 2, your base, there is a few more places that the artillery can take position, and that is more than likely those bushes there and those bushes there. So you want to just make sure you scout those properly and uncover any hiding places where the enemy's artillery could be hidden. I mean, sometimes they don't even take a hiding place, they just squeeze themselves up next to a ridge and hope that they never get spotted. So once you or your allies have taken those out, then it's just go on for a base capture. The second route we're going to look at when spawning at base number 2 is going to be a central map position. So you want to take the same route you would take to get to the left flank, but when you get to these rocks here, take a right hand turn and go through the gap in the mountains here. And you want to be aiming for those bushes there. So you want to get down into this dip here and take up a good stealth position behind these bushes. You'll want to take up a better stealth position than I did there. So from here, just again make sure you're well stealthed, you are able to spot all the way to the enemy's base. As you can see, the flag there. Just be aware that if you're not in a fast tank, then this is a dangerous position to get to, as the enemy's north exit from the base is right there, and that is the path that a lot of tanks will be taking, so just be aware of that. But all that aside, you get a fantastic view of that ridge there, where you will get mediums, heavies and tank destroyers camping, trying to put some fire down on the central area of the map, and you will also get other tanks who advance along this position here. So, if you've got the support and you manage to take out everybody in this area, when you come to advance, you want to just head to this bush here. Now you don't want to just do a straight advance from this position, because there will be camping defenders all along this route. So you want to make more of a staggered approach. So come up behind these rocks, take a stealth position in the bush and just wait it out. Hopefully you'll get somebody to take a shot at you and thus give away their position. So Once you're confident that the next stretch is clear, you want to head to these rocks just up here. So there's nothing you can really do when out in the open, so you want to just get there as quickly as possible and take up a good position here. And again, you might find there's a defender in those bushes there, so just pop your head out. Hopefully they'll have a shot at you and give away their position, and you can either take them out yourself or your allies can take them out. And once that is done, you just want to take the same route you would take from, as in route number 1, into the enemy's base. So over that ridge there, keep eyes on these bushes as there may be a lingering tank destroyer, and then it's just a case of hunt out the enemy's artillery pieces and pick yourself up a couple of kills taking them out. So the third and final route we're going to cover out of base number 2 is going to be along the right hand flank. So what you're going to want to do is just come down here and get to the central area as fast as you can. Just to be aware that the camping positions are a lot closer to the enemy's base than they are to your base, so you're at a slight disadvantage. That is why I would only recommend this route if you are a bit more experienced at scouting and scout techniques. If you're new to this, then I wouldn't recommend this as your first choice from base number 2. So where you want to get to is just behind this rock here. Now you can try and push on to those bushes there if you have the support from some medium tanks or other light tanks, or if you're fairly high on the board, if you're one of the top tier tanks. And the reason for that is because you're going to have eyes on that ridge there, and even the slowest of the enemy tanks should be able to reach that point before you can reach that point there. So what your job is going to be is it's going to be to spot whoever it is who's camping on that ridge there, and you want to try and lure them into making a mistake. So you want to keep popping your head out and try and get them to overextend themselves. Now if you can't get them to do that, then what you want to do is just back up, give yourself a head of steam and make a break for these rocks here. Hopefully as you're accelerating across there, they will try and pop themselves all the way out and you will be able to lure them into getting destroyed. So without even stopping, you want to come around those rocks and then stick to the right hand side of this mountain here. That way you should be protected from direct fire from anybody up here. And you're aiming just for this point here, and you want to take cover just on the other side of this little outcropping here, and you should be able to spot anybody who is camping in those bushes and be safe from direct fire from them. If they do push around that area there, just fall back and your tank destroyers and heavy tanks should be able to easily take them out. And then once they have been dealt with, it's just a simple case of not crashing into the mountain there. It's a simple case of heading around this outcropping here and into the enemy's base. Once you're in the base again, it's just a case of hunt for the enemy's artillery. Just be aware that if you did push in early, you may still have some heavy tanks and tank destroyers on that ridge there defending that flank of the base, so just be aware that you may have to deal with them. So it's just a case of into the base, hunt for the enemy's artillery, and fingers crossed that should be the victory for you. Thank you very much for watching this World of Tanks map guide. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, don't forget to like or favourite this video, because that really helps us out. And you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel for future World of Tanks guides, tips, tutorials and gameplay videos in the future. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.